Thanks in part to reckless and unwise decisions by its leaders, the state of New York has recorded more deaths from COVID than any other place in America. Now there's evidence that officials in New York and Erie County, that's where Buffalo is, apparently wasted coronavirus funds on frivolous expenses. Stefan Mihailu is the county controller there in Erie County, and we're happy to have him on tonight to explain exactly what happened. Stefan, thanks so much for coming on. So where did this money go? Merry Christmas. I appreciate it.
It went to a lot of pizza shops, restaurants. Instead of having CARES Act funding, we received $160 million of it in Erie County. Politicians spent it on pizza, wings, literally raw pork chops, pots and pans so that employees, county workers can eat. So instead of a lot of that money going to the front lines to fight coronavirus, federal tax dollars went literally towards pork chops and food for county workers. And I think that's a colossal waste. And I notified every member of Congress and the federal government about that, because I don't think that's what they intended CARES Act funding to go for. I see it as a waste. And it's a slap in the face to a lot of people who are on the front lines fighting coronavirus, and a lot of business owners who are being crushed by COVID rules that politicians themselves don't follow.
This is no attack on county workers. I'm sure you've got a lot of really good people working in your county, but county jobs are among the most secure in the world. Very hard to get fired. They've got the best benefits probably in New York State outside of finance. These are secure jobs. These people are not in peril, but the money went to them and not the people who need it? How'd that work?
And I think that's why people are so frustrated, because business owners are barely hanging by. They can barely keep their lights on. And yet CARES Act funding is being used to feed county employees who are working as contact tracers, so to speak. Tucker, I pack my lunch all the time. I pay for my own food. And I think that's where that frustration is across the country, is that here government is basically blowing and spending all of this money on pizza, wings, raw pork, and pots and pans. And they're thinking, wait a minute, how is this fighting coronavirus, number one? And yet, why am I only getting $600 from the federal government when money's being wasted here in Erie County, or at the federal level, we're sending millions of dollars overseas, and yet some of these businesses that are struggling can barely keep the lights on. So I'm exposing a lot of this fraud at the local level, but at the national level, you've got these liberal Democrats like Gavin Newsom, Nancy Pelosi, Andrew Cuomo, even Chris Cuomo, rules for thee, but not for me. And they're shoving all of these COVID rules that they themselves don't follow, and yet they're crippling businesses and wasting money.
It's almost beyond belief. I mean, yesterday we watched Senator Lindsey Graham explain that federal money needs to go to Pakistan so the Pakistanis can embrace progressive gender roles. And now we're learning that state employees in New York are buying pork chops with money for COVID relief. It's really distressing. And I appreciate, Stefan, your taking the time to explain this to us and expose it. Really quick, is anyone going to get punished for this?
Well, we've notified all members of Congress, and we're going to notify the federal government at the end of the year, because it's not just food. Our county is paying political appointees, salaried people, overtime. Our health commissioner makes $202,000 a year, and she's earned $160,000 in overtime and holiday pay. So here, even our local county executive, he's ordering people to wear masks. He was caught without one, and drinking beer and eating communal food. And yet all these political appointees, they've made about $1 million in overtime and holiday pay. And yet businesses are getting screwed over. Taxpayers are getting screwed over. And enough is enough. I've notified the feds. And if they indeed see that this is not the proper way to use the money, they'll get the money back.
Man, they must hate you for blowing the whistle. Good for you.
Wear it like a badge of honor.
Amen. Good to see you tonight. Thank you.
All right. Take care.